going beyond that. But I think there will be an arcade hall kind of.
If you want to look at, by the way, at the future of the experiential and arcade business, you can go to China. In China, they're investing a ton in arcades, in amusement parks and theme parks that are VR theme parks. There's all these internet cafes. There's millions of these internet cafes, whether legal or illegal. The HTCs of the world are supporting those in droves. They're installing 100,000 Vives in internet cafes right now. That's where you're going to see. It's not a full arcade experience, but what they're doing in China and what they're doing elsewhere is they're taking over old movie theaters in Korea, exactly, where they're converting old theaters and actually they're building them from scratch and they're creating esports arenas, which where people are doing competitive gaming and everything else. But within those, they have VR arcades and other things like that. Because if you want to get an 18-year-old kid away from his computer or his iPhone or whatever it is into an environment, it's not going to be a movie theater anymore. Those guys don't necessarily watch movies in theaters anymore. They're on their phones. They want something that they can be social with their friends, whether it's in person or over the internet.
Shall we, guys? Anybody got questions? Let's see. Yeah, we've got a microphone coming around.
Hi guys, thank you. This is super interesting.
Thanks.
I think I've been thinking as you've been speaking about what other games there are that exist in a 360 world, and of course one of the answers is, well, everything that exists in a physical environment. And I think if escape rooms are a viable business model, then clearly it would seem that doing VR games together is, and from the storytelling perspective, obviously live role-playing games on the avant-garde side have something to teach us. But I think the cultural expectation is, as you're saying, that we're going to be able to share these stories and these worlds. Basically, we're waiting for the holodeck. That's going to be the killer app. So if I may ask you to look into the future, how are we 5 years away, 10 years away, 20 years away from the actual shareable, really interactive storytelling space? And I realize there are bandwidth issues that are enormous, so let's not say when can we do holodeck on our mobiles and play together multiplayer like that, but when can we do it at all?
I think it depends on what you mean by the holodeck, because there's a lot of meanings, right? I mean, as a Star Trek fan, you think of the holodeck and you think of it as a complete recreation of physical space. I think the biggest problem with the holodeck, or actually recreating humans, is that that's a very, very difficult problem. So there's something called light field technologies that allow you to volumetric capture the space. So for example, somebody over in San Francisco, where I'm from, could be sitting here where you are watching this. That's very, very difficult to do because human capture is hard, right? You got to get it basically exactly right. Otherwise, you feel this thing called the uncanny valley, right? Where something's almost human, but not quite. And there's sort of this revulsion that people have when they see something like that. But at the same time, on the flip side, I think in many ways the holodeck is here now, in the sense that in VR, one of the biggest things I've learned, and one of the things that we kind of have almost plastered as on the walls as a principle, is in VR, simplicity goes a long way. And when I first tried, the early prototypes that was coming out of Oculus when I first joined, what was interesting is that you would see, there was this one room where you basically saw an experience of yourself in a mirror, and you were a cube, just a simple cube with 2 dots for eyes, and that was it. And basically you moved your head around and it followed your movement. And there was something really real about that, right? It wasn't a human, it didn't look human, it was very simple, and it was very powerful. There's something Oculus has created called Toy Box, which I think is really incredible, even though it doesn't look human. It just looks like a digital representation, an avatar, and that's fine. At Penrose, we're creating similar stuff like that. And we're finding that you don't have to have human representations. It can be a CG environment and it works pretty well.
It's just the toy box. It's so you're sitting in total different rooms, and but together with somebody, you are in the virtual world. And the way how real that is, and how amazing the way how you can feel emotions, and because you can also talk together. When I was doing that, and when they switch it off, it actually goes partly. So they first switch off the sounds, and then your movement stops, and then you actually really step up. And it feels really like, after being 20 minutes in there, it feels really like they're cutting an arm off you, and that you're still screaming to the person opposite to you, who's in a total different space. So yeah, the way how that works with your brain, it's amazing, and I have really high expectations.
Yeah, at Stanford, I did this demo where they select from about 13 different avatars, and it's something that kind of resembles you, and you have some controls, and you're looking at this big mirror. For me, they choose brown-haired guy in a suit, dancing around. After about 5 minutes, they say, look down, so you're no longer looking at the mirror. Then I look back up again, and they turn my avatar into a hypersexualized woman. And I knew what had happened, that they had changed my avatar, but it took my brain a long time to connect and start moving again, because after about 5 minutes, they said this thing called body transference happens, where your brain can connect to this avatar and it could live the rest of its life as this avatar. So when it changed the avatar, it changed my entire world, my entire perception of myself. And it took me a while to like start moving again. So, you know, it doesn't have to be photoreal. The uncanny valley is real, and our brains now can connect and identify with people who don't look like humans, and that's also really exciting.
Yeah, listen, the future is now. So it's all doable now. All the technology is there. It just requires somebody with enough courage and, if you to use the Yiddish word, chutzpah, to go do it. You know, when we did Paranormal Activity, everybody said, "What are you talking about? You're not going to do a full AAA game with the way you move. You have a 12,000 square foot house, 4 stories. It's a massive game." Everybody said, "What are you, crazy? You have to stand in one place and you got to spin around and you have to shoot things. That's VR." We said, "No freaking way. We're going to go for it. We're just going to go do what nobody else is doing." And we weren't really paying attention to what anybody else said. We just did it. So everything you're talking about is achievable right now. It's just somebody's got to just do it. And by the way, there's plenty of money in VR right now. So people who are trying to finance movies and everything else, you're wasting your time. It's a big pain in the ass.
But just to
VR,
give
there's
a,
plenty of